Hey there, welcome to episode 101 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this at 11:47 a.m. Pacific Time here in the Greater Vegas area. On Thursday, October 30th, 2025. We publish on Thursday, so that works out nicely. Today's title and topic, the comments. Of course, I'm referring mostly to internet comments on things like YouTube videos and occasionally on podcast episodes, very rarely in my case, which is probably okay. The comments. If you're not familiar with FFS Talk, this is intended to be a dialogue or a trilogue, so conversation, debate, argument over various topics to discover, determine, maybe convince others of what works, what does not work, and what we might do about it to make more things work, presumably. All of our episodes have been monologue audio essays, which I prefer to think of as priming the pump, planting some seeds of future discussions. There have been several sort of topic arcs, but it's been a lot of different types of topics and focus areas. Plenty of possibility for conversation and argument. So we'll get there eventually. Got to get the word out more. In the meantime, if you're not familiar with what FFS means, it is an abbreviation. It's a pretty normal abbreviation in somewhat common usage for an Irish expression. Other people probably say it too. I certainly heard it when I was in Ireland many times. And if you don't know what it is, you should meet more Irish people. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a summary, which I'll read to you, precisely 2 sentences that are not very long. And then the links for today's episode, the 2 self-promotion links about the program itself, and 3 episode links that are appropriate for today's topic. So let's get on with it so we can head into the weekend tomorrow, go trick-or-treating or whatever you do on the 31st. By the way, it'll be Nevada Day. Nevada became a state, entered the Union, I believe it was in 1864, on October 31st. It is a state holiday. On that note, let us begin with the summary. Surely someone has suggested this, that the internet has made speech and conversation ubiquitous, or nearly so, for better or worse. Does it feel like worse sometimes? Yes. The links for today's episode. FFS Talk has a website, ffstalk.com, no space, ffstalk.com. Like all of my websites, I need to continue the beautification process. I'm sort of like halfway on a couple of different, they're all now out of sync a little bit. That's okay, because my web traffic has been essentially zero for the time being. I'm really just not getting the word out because I want to make stuff work, and I want to prepare an easy path for someone who wants to join in on a conversation about this stuff. Maybe we can, you can come on and we can have a conversation or debate or whatever. So it's one of the things. I have multiple websites to deal with and so on. So excuses. The profile page linking everything continues to be my buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page, which has links to all of my audio programming, including a variety of ways to reach them, YouTube and so on, as well as links to my various projects that I'm working on, some biographical information at the top. There's some affiliate links towards the bottom. These are products I actually use, including some of my favorite coffee beans. You're under no obligation to spend any money here in any way, but if you do use the affiliate links, you don't pay any extra, but you can support the shows, and all proceeds go towards coffee and coffee equipment because that's what powers everything I'm working on, aside from money. Don't forget also the Buy Me an Update audio program published on Mondays. It's usually 5 minutes or less. In fact, it always has been thus far. It's a quick rundown on the previous week's audio programs and news and announcements upcoming. 5 minutes, Monday mornings. Not only available initially on buymeacoffee.com/danhugo/posts, but also published in the usual places shortly after. It is named after the Buy Me a Coffee program, and we are publishing it there exclusively. The episode links include a history of the comments section, which is actually it's a pretty quick read and interesting, sort of, if you're into this, on the inevitablehuman.com website. The complicated history and frightful future of the internet comment section. Good times. Next, a Wikipedia page about the well. You can check out the history of the well, which is relatively important, but also what the well was. Salon acquired them in 1999, as we'll talk about. So a little background information there. Godwin's Law, in case you're not familiar, you can read the Wikipedia page. It's where contentious conversations usually end up pointing or landing, and that seems to be always true today. Godwin's Law, you gotta love it. Everything is predictable. What say you? What say you? We sometimes forget the notion that anyone might lend their thoughts and views to a discussion on the web did not come in the box. The web was basically a publishing platform, not a conversation platform initially. That you or I or anyone could visit a website and type anything we want in response to something that someone else published. That could be the site owner, a member of the website, if it had membership, a club, an organization, a company, or generally the responsible owner of the website, that they would let you join in. Sometimes the comment would be a response to another comment. These are often called threaded comments. Itself a response to an article or maybe a weblog or a blog or maybe some sort of a post in those early days, whatever the context. Reply-based comments were not new even when they were new, because the internet was born on sharing information and discussion. That's the whole reason it got started. The ARPANET and all that, DARPANET later. The ability to message a group of people across the network via group email or something like chat is literally a part of the driving force behind building what we now know as the internet, with Usenet news groups and Internet Relay Chat, IRC, coming along in the middle there for those on the nerdy side. I think Usenet launched in 1983. So enabling this type of interaction on the web was really a matter of introducing a larger population, maybe a little bit less familiar with these historical underpinnings, to this notion of a conversation, most likely, with people they did not know. That article in the link section has a few specifics, including requests for comment interactions, which still exist today. That's the history of the comment section. And there were a couple of interesting, the whole article is interesting, but a couple of cool tidbits like, oh, that's when that started. If one is thoughtful, if the owners of a website really think about what comes next when comments are enabled, there's a fairly quick realization that the law of unintended consequences makes itself known within what seems like moments. One could argue, in fact, that any effort that went into building a platform, a brand, some web presence, is the beginning of work in this direction. Enabling comments is perhaps the end of the beginning, as Winston Churchill may have said of his own website, Salon.com. Apropos, in 2005, I joined Salon.com. I started working for them as a contractor, a consultant, and then I moved back to the Bay Area from Arizona and accepted a position as an employee in their engineering, or really more of a web development group of 4 or 5 people. They were a public company for 10 years. They had paying subscribers, paying advertisers, and 1 profitable quarter out of 10 years. I think they were public for 10 years, if I remember correctly. That's how I remember it. Salon had acquired a platform called The Well in 1999, which had made a name for itself as an online community. Let's say a high quality online community with active participants and ongoing engagement. One of the participants, which you will read about on the Wikipedia page about The Well, was Scott Rosenberg, whom I knew. He was one of the co-founders of Salon, so he was a member of this community. So it was a way to kind of start out with a community that it was already in existence. The Well people, the ones who remained and were a part of the acquisition and were thus part of Salon, sat right next to where the engineering people were, so I knew Gail, and there was another person that was there all the time. So interesting. So Salon had acquired them in 1999. I joined in 2005. Salon basically I acquired the idea of this community and all the eyeballs, as the kids say, of such acquisitions. It's kind of like the Instagram acquisition. Why would you pay so much? You're paying for the people that are already members of the platform. So you don't have to build it. You buy it. It's like buying a house that's already been built, right? As it happens, in 2005, in that time frame when I joined, the online news industry was embracing the notion of reader comments and general discussion on their platforms. And again, you can read that in the History of the Comment section article. This is not to say 2005 was the year it began, but it was just about when a critical mass was reached so that if the other news site had comments, we better have comments. Salon had a classic letters to the editor feature prior. You would email Salon. They would decide if they wanted to post your email in their editorial or letters to the editor section, and then they would respond perhaps or not. So this would become a per article comment from the masses. So it's still called letters to the editor, but it would be on any or all articles, and anyone could post, sort of, put an asterisk by that. We actually encountered some odd scenarios almost immediately from how to differentiate paying subscribers from the general population. That is, what should it look like to the casual observer? This comment is from a paid subscriber, this comment is not, etc. Right? We could tell, but how do you share that with the public? Do you share it with the public? Moderation, of course, was a big one, and that's still a problem, of course. How to handle anonymous comments, if those are allowed at all. Should we allow anonymous comments? That's hard to say. What about anonymous paying subscribers? What about anonymous non-paying, non-subscribers? Keeping the comment threads constrained to some sort of decorum was a big thing. So moderation, but also, what if they go off topic, right? The article was about this, but they want to talk about that. It's like, well, why don't you start your own magazine? You can talk about whatever you want. And this was before bots and other challenges, AI and whatnot, just people typing on their keyboards without much in the way of qualification in any sense of that word. So basically, when we rolled out this feature, anyone could type anything. We didn't have image attachments and whatnot. You'll find, it depends on the platform. Some platforms enable full-on image attachments, multiple image attachments, emojis, and other reaction stuff. You can attach maybe video or audio content. It just depends. So let's start with what works, or what I think works, and you can always argue with me if you want. I think we have all been in the position in this modern era where we want to contribute something to a discussion, or provide some insight to an article or photo and so on. Like maybe I was there for that, or someone I know was in that situation, or the list goes on. Maybe you want to add a link to a relevant article that would be related to the thing you're commenting on. Like, oh, here's more information, or here's the official account, etc. Here's what really happened. You want to correct a fact, maybe offer personal reflections, any number of variations. One of the early signs of value in comments was this broad exchange of ideas. Sharing of information between disparate groups, localities, cultures, kicked off with an article, maybe a photo, a video, a tweet, and then allowed to continue where it might. Threaded comments have become something of a usual tool, though sometimes also a weapon, to sprout tributary conversations that can sometimes outlive the origin. Maybe somebody will start off on a tangent, and that one goes on for much longer. People lose interest in the original post or article or whatever it was. But the thread goes on. Not quite, but almost like real conversations, with some entering and some leaving, the focus meandering, sometimes to more interesting corners, almost organic, often good, sometimes not. I can't remember if I'm going to point this out. I don't think so, but no, I think I do. But one of the interesting things about Twitter, in the article comment model, there's like a root article, and then the comments are on the article or they're threaded, so you can comment on somebody's comment. But it's basically like rooted in the original article. Every tweet is essentially a first-class post. So when I respond to a tweet or a Blue Sky post or a Mastodon post or similar, my comment becomes the new starting point if somebody wants to comment on that and take the conversation in that direction, or they can comment on what I've said based on what I've commented on to the original, all that. So it's an interesting model where you can basically start new conversations at any point. And even if somebody deletes the original article, all of the tweets or Blue Sky posts or Mastodon toots or whatever, they remain as first class posting. I'm going to call that something of a game changer. A little one, but it's still important. So yeah, almost organic. The well was something of a private community when Salon purchased it or acquired it. Some platforms require creation of an account, but are generally open to registered members until a particular member is prevented. Sometimes no registration is required. Maybe a non-visible email address must be supplied to verify non-robot status, if that still even works. I think LiveJournal is one example where you could make a comment, you put in an email address, you receive an email, confirm that, yes, I did make this comment. And then if you caused trouble or if there was, that you could be contacted, like, what are you doing posting this, etc. Discord and Slack are other similar tools. They're essentially adjustable community conversation platforms, all private, invite only, open to anyone with a link, and so on. So you can kind of customize access and so on, moderation maybe. This sort of flexibility enables some form of decorum to be maintained most of the time, sometimes, maybe. So before we do the what does not work, I have a couple of anecdotes. The other day I made a comment on a Blue Sky post, and I call Blue Sky Twitter BS at this point. A Blue Sky post that somehow drifted into General Patton from the word George S. Patton. I think it was S, right? A George Patton reference, General Patton, which drew some responses about how there was a Patton quote, a statement, and out of context characterizations regarding German and Russia and Russian adversaries and whom the U.S. should have been more concerned with. I believe it was something along the lines of, we should have been fighting the Russians instead of the Germans, or we chose the wrong enemy, or something of that nature. If you just take that one sentence, it sounds very different than from the intent, which was that the watch who has your back, because they're standing awfully close to you. So yeah, Russia. Well, we know how things turned out, or are turning out. So without actually understanding that context, though, arguing with someone who does not, who does understand the context, arguing with someone an argument between people who do and do not becomes pointless and frustrating pretty quickly, as I can attest. This happens frequently in my interactions and in general, I think, where people choose to go with their confirmation bias, I wrote conformation. I don't even know that's a spell checkable word. Confirmation bias. So the article or whatever I agree with this. It agrees with me. It makes me feel like I know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to attack anyone who doesn't agree with it. Similar to the George Patton situation. Motivated reasoning, or maybe just laziness. Like, I'm just going to believe what I've heard. I'm not going to read anything myself. Presenting an argument without research can quickly devolve into ad hominem and vitriol, neither productive. In fact, often very frustrating. Again, this happens frequently with anything in the way directly related or adjacent to politics, especially of late, to be sure. Back in the salon days, there was substantial concern, even pushback from professional journalists and contributors. Cory Doctorow was one of them, by the way. That's where I first heard of him. He didn't work in the office, but I saw his name a lot on the old fax machine. There was substantial concern, even pushback, from these professionals and certainly talented writers and contributors who were not at all pleased with the notion that the unwashed masses would be placing words next to their own, essentially giving them credibility. At that time, we were embracing the future of open communication and sharing of ideas. And if you read that article, you see a 2005 timeframe. It was really catching on across the newspapers and online magazine marketplace to have the ability to have commentary and some form of community building. You can put that in air quotes. Looking back, they were absolutely correct to be concerned, and they were correct for their reasoning as well. Literally, I do this for a living, and I do the work of a journalist where you have ethics and you do research and you quote and you have notes and you want to put somebody who has no idea what they're talking about on the same page as me, give them some of my credibility juice. Remember Google juice, the random surfer algorithm, PageRank. So yeah, they were right. They were correct. So what does not work? And this is kind of anecdotal also, but I don't think I'm going to say anything too surprising here. Spam and phishing and your basic bad actor interactions with bad intentions are not a new thing by any means, but automation and now generative artificial intelligence have made email and messaging something of a minefield. And the same is true now, and it has been for some time, of comments. So it's just getting worse, or maybe better if you're in the business of doing this stuff. All manner of tools and methods can be applied to keep out the spam, prevent the bulk and coordinated comment bots from doing their thing, and generally keeping interactions to humans, or at least to known actors, Not all robots are bad, right? They would have you believe that anyway. I asked ChatGPT, and it said, some of us are good. Even regular humans without in-person connection can descend into ad hominem and vitriol, right? So anybody can get ticked off and start getting mean and angry and worse. And they can go to other bad places, according to Godwin's law, for example. Godwin's law, I'm not looking at the page right now, but it's that any conversation on the internet, given enough time, will eventually land at Hitler, which is a popular topic lately. While communication at a distance can be quite valuable, sometimes there is always a fundamental component of human nature to treat us differently than them. Them are completely without connection, other than a username and commentary, and once engagement turns unpleasant, escape to mean and beyond takes very little effort and very little humanity. If I don't know you, if I don't know anything about you, and you've said something that upsets me, I'm going to escalate, because who cares? I don't know who you are. I don't know where you live. And that's when doxing comes into the picture. Oh, now people know where I live. Very little humanity. Yeah. It is easy to form a sense of community, the us, if you will. Platforms like Discord, which I am not picking on in particular, but that is a quite popular platform that's pretty accessible, pretty easy to spin up a free Discord server. These can provide something of a partitioned environment for ongoing conversation and development of actual relationships of a kind. They call it, put these in air quotes as well, community building. I don't think you can really build a community. You make something attractive that people like, and then you try to prevent bad people from trying to join in. It's a lot of trying. The Well was in those early days, that sort of community where they were, I think it was a pay community. You can read about it on the Wikipedia page. It was $2 a month or something. It was a light velvet rope. And so a community developed over time because it was someplace, a resource that was appealing with appealing conversation. And you build on that. And there are plenty of examples of similar before and since of this sort of connection online turning into sort of an ongoing comfort level and responsible communication and decorum. And with more and more participation, there is a greater and greater chance, though, that even a high-functioning community will fracture, sometimes loudly. This happens every once in a while with the Linux projects. Somebody will have a fundamental disagreement, or there'll be sort of an ideology change, a shift in attitudes, and suddenly you're no longer welcome in a group that you started, etc. I mean, it's one reason to stay small, maybe. Like, hey, we should work this out so we can continue building cool stuff. But it all depends. I'm not a sociologist. Sometimes friends, neighbors, and even family can have a falling out. That's just the way it is. Subtract interpersonal contact and you get what you get. Again, people can be remarkably cruel when they don't know who you are. They can go to 11 immediately, to coin a phrase. And it's unfortunate because that undoes a lot of the utility of this sort of interaction, which has otherwise been pretty valuable over the course of the internet. So what can we do? By the way, I didn't mention forums. The Discord and Slack are kind of like forums, but forums have been around for a long time. There are a lot of different experiments and some that have lasted the test of time. IRC is still around. Usenet is still around. So some of them do work, and some people have assumed that they didn't and they don't exist anymore, but they do. Maybe Usenet could make a comeback. So yeah, what can we do? Obviously, the easiest, or rather the least effort way to proceed, is to allow for status quo. So don't do anything. There will be bad actors. There will be automated adversaries, powered by generative AI that may learn all about you and target you individually. You know, when you have the power of high performance computing to drive these things, I can search the internet for every occurrence of any comment or post or picture or anything you've ever done. And then I can seek you out and address you as if we've known each other for decades and go from there. They may do this to engage with some sort of an agenda, to discover some information that you may not otherwise have been sharing with people, and so on. And all along the way, there will be deep fakes and so-called AI slop, production by Street, a so-called AI slop that will be aimed at a more general audience, designed to evoke an emotional response, maybe shift voting groups and voting attitudes, or maybe just general opinions or to raise levels of angst. Sometimes they call it advertising, often successfully, in line with some agenda. Welcome to the future. We are here. Tighter restrictions, more closed communities, maybe communities that are more closed, depending on how you look at it. Positive identification confirmation, an electronic ID card, or an online ID. Basically, a more draconian environment for idea sharing. Certainly possible. Yeah. Some age checks have already been rolling out in different places. Sometimes there is a time and a place to be strict, even very strict, with the obvious minor participation scenarios, as in people under 18, people under legal age, close-knit groups that do not wish to be open to just anyone. Sure, it's your group. You want to have a conversation and not let others in, totally fine. But applying these sorts of rules generally, universally, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky. What else is there? TikTok. I mean, there's so many. Really, when you start digging, there's too many to mention. Everybody has a little different experiment going on, which is actually a good thing. Reddit has had huge problems with moderation, actually. So yeah, sometimes there's a time and a place. Other times you want to be open to people joining and participating. But applying these rules generally, universally, would likely be very stifling and might not even be adhered to. People might rebel. That's probably the most likely early outcome. Communication across the world is here. It will continue, and it might have to go underground, perhaps. If you started requiring an online, take pictures of your driver's license. By the way, Google is really awful because of this. They, hey, I'd like to create a YouTube channel. Well, send us a drop of blood and take a picture, front and side, and like, what did I do? Nothing yet. But yeah, if you do that, you'll find people creating their own decentralized platforms, which already exist, luckily, and they'll just take the communications out of public view. And then, we see evidence of how this can go in various chat group disclosures. Somebody will leak hundreds or thousands of chats from Telegram or WhatsApp or whatever, often unanticipated by the participants. So people have said some awful things. And we have curious outcomes like, oh, I didn't know you were that kind of a person. Why don't you find a new job? My favorite, actually, within the realm of possibility with the rapid rise of AI tools available to anyone, which is, by the way, even though I think the hype over AI is ridiculous, there is some utility to be found in AI. And I think once the Gartner hype curve makes its way and we get to the sort of steady state off to the right of that curve, I think there will be a lot of interesting possibilities. I use AI to generate my cover art for the audio program episodes. So that comes in handy. I generate some artistic elements. I composite it with other things like text and other elements. So it's a partner in my workflow. I haven't handed over my entire life to it, but I might call personally, we might use these tools to form what I might call a personal security team that would act specifically on behalf of you or me or anyone, owned and controlled by that individual, so me or you, rather than being left to the platform. So rather than letting X or Facebook decide what I'm going to see, my security team, my virtual AI-powered security team can decide what's good for me. And I will know, because I'm in charge of it, I own it, I will know what it's doing. So I might say, oh, you know what? Yeah, that one's good. I don't have a user experience worked out, but to me, it seems that we have the technology. It's a lot like saying the phone company, you used to have to rent your phone from the phone company. We got over that a long time ago. So you should have a little bit more sovereignty over your presence in the world. So don't let Facebook decide what you're going to see. You and your AI-powered tools can do that. It's basically like an online bodyguard. So you're the boss. Like, hey, keep that guy away from me. Hey, keep those posts on Facebook away from me. Hey, keep YouTube comments away from me completely. Don't ever let me see them. So yeah, your AI bodyguard could be wrapped around you like a warm blanket. Sort of like spam filtering and tools that would someone could use on their own computer, which you can, rather than being handled by your email service provider like Google. Google has like an 87% market share. They have too much power to determine who gets to see which emails and which emails get denied or simply thrown away. So that's maybe a problem. But if you're in charge of your own spam filtering, then you know what's being filtered. Hey, I didn't get your email. Did Google prevent my email from getting to you? Oh, no. I found it I run my own spam filtering system, as should we all. We'll be able to run your own tools. Well, actually, you already can, but they'll make it a little bit easier for people to run your own tools that will have your best interests built into their operating parameters, their models, whatever the future labels will be with regard to how these things function. Who knows? Maybe social media platforms and commenting on other types of online information will change radically from a platform-centric, platform-moderated model, something closer to the way people actually communicate. If we are in a room talking to each other, I don't have to look over to the LinkedIn boss or the Facebook boss. Who's the LinkedIn boss? Is Evan Williams? No. Hey Zuckerberg, is it okay if I talk to this person? Do you want to check every word that I say to them? You can get rid of that and communicate like normal people, and we'll have our bodyguards around us, powered by some AI algorithm that will be open source, and you'll be able to examine if you want, and you'll be able to trust it as much as you care to. And we'll actually communicate like real people, even if we're online. Maybe AI will be actually useful on a personal level for real. Not that this was about the AI, but I think the tools are becoming available to make online conversation, the comments, to make them just a little bit less stressful, a little bit less frustrating, a little bit less a waste of time, a little bit less an agenda-driven psychological operation. So I think that there's infinite value to be had in connecting people, but I think a lot of that value can be removed very quickly by allowing people to run roughshod and to exercise their agenda, perhaps bad actors with a nefarious goal or goals, and making use of technology that characterizes you on an individual basis and crafts messages that will sway your opinion on things. I think that's dangerous, and we don't know what's happening. Certainly it's dangerous if you are a younger person who's not wise to the ways and the bad ways of the world. So comments, they're a little bit more, there's more going on than meets the eye sometimes. And sometimes people will just read comments and they'll get riled up. They'll believe certain assertions that are made. It will sway their opinions. Perhaps they'll make decisions based on, comments that have been, if you post a photo and you get 5,000 comments and they all suggest that you cut your hair, you might cut your hair. And then you're like, oh, I shouldn't have cut my hair. Well, those 5,000 comments were from robots and they were trying to sell you on hair care products, whatever, right? I just made that up. But so comments are a tricky business. And once you get into the business of enabling comments, moderation, community safety, community standards, decorum, hate speech, section 203, 203 or 208? I think it's 203. Let me verify that. No, 208. Yeah. 208. No. What is the publishing? Isn't that section? Internet. I'm sorry. We're at the tail end of the show here, so we're good. Oh, 230. Getting old. Section 230, which basically absolves the platform of responsibility for content as long as they are just a platform and not a publisher. So if I'm the New York Times, I'm a publisher, so I'm responsible for the content. If I'm just a platform and people can type stuff and you do the bare minimum as required to moderate, then you're not the publisher. You're going to let the community decide and you'll have like upvote, downvote type stuff. But we've put a lot of responsibility onto the platform. I think it would be interesting if you put that responsibility into the control of the individual, and then the individual can have tools that will make selections about what to consume, what to seek out, what to share, etc. So there'll be interesting times ahead, but comments as they are, they're more than meets the eye, and they're worth thinking about, probably more than you want to. I know I was in that position back in 2005 or so. Anyway, that's where we're going to leave it. You can hear my voice is going all over the place. It's the weather is transitioning here in Vegas. Always a good time. I always complain about my voice going nuts, but hopefully you made it through. I barely did. Thank you for listening. As always, we'll catch you next week. Don't forget to check out my other audio programs, though. I publish something every day, 5 days a week, plus the Coffee Solo audio program, which could pop up anytime. Happy Nevada Day, whatever day you're listening to this. Happy New Year. Take care now.